So at this point, I want to turn things over to Eric Bonham, and I always like to refer to Eric as the heart and soul of Convening for Action on Vancouver Island. The acronym is CAVI. So for those of you who don't know Eric, I mean, he used to be in the provincial civil service, and he may have retired from his old day job, but he's busier than ever being the heart and soul of Convening for Action on Vancouver Island. And Eric, if you want to add to that, by all means, at some point in your recent past, you were named the Citizen of the Year in this region, weren't you? So, thanks, Eric.
Thank you very much, Kim, for those kind words. I'm trying to, today, I feel my task is to share with you the story of CAVI, the history of CAVI, how we got to where we're at, and what is the purpose and where we go from here. I think the Mayor made an actually excellent introduction and set the foundations for it, as did Kim. A little bit about my own background, as Kim indicated, I'm now retired officially, supposedly, 4 years ago, but I have about 40, 45 years experience. I only bring this because I want to bring out things that I've learned through my time, and I think we can apply them perhaps for me to where we're trying to go from here. I was involved with the provincial government in two ministries, the Ministry of Community Development, as it's now called, and Glenn will be talking much more about that, and the Ministry of Environment. But I also worked with the private sector and construction back in the early days. But throughout that, I've been an avid community believer. Stewardship to me is so close to the heart, because I think the stewardship, where it happens, on the ground, is where changes start to occur. It's all about bridge building, and those comments have been made today. Let me start with a quotation which has always been close to my heart. So reputedly captured in an old church in England, a church inscription in England in 1786. It goes like this: a vision without a task is not a vision. A task without a vision is drudgery. A vision with a task is the hope of the world. It's those two levels of having the big picture and also having the pragmatic, step-by-step issues that we have to deal with to make things happen. So with that, could we have the first slide first? Oh, go back one. Kim has given some introduction here, but how many people know about CAVI? I mean, it is pretty well most people, or some haven't. Creating our future, the new business as usual. The idea here is that innovation becomes a regular practice. That it's not new, it's not necessarily innovative to bring in new ideas, because we'll be thinking of that consistently. So the new business as usual. But we raise the question, what do we want Vancouver Island to look like in 50 years? So if we backtrack to where we are, what decisions do we have to make now to have a sustainable future on Vancouver Island? As noted, you see 4 areas in the box there: BCWWA, the Real Estate Foundation, and importantly, I think very importantly, 2 ministries, the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Community Development. Their presence, in my opinion, just underscores the credibility of what we're doing here. The ministries do not support things that they don't believe is the right direction. So it's extremely important that we have the presence of the ministries. But that's by no means the whole story. We have strong connections with the academic sector, and we have Polish representative Suzanne here doing wonderful work out in ecological governance with Oliver Brandeis up at the University of Victoria. We've got connections to Camosun, we've got connections to Royal Roads, and we've got connections to Malaspina College up in Nanaimo. We've also got connections to the private sector, the business sector, the NGOs, and First Nations. CAVI is a concept. If you were to ask me where is CAVI, look it up in the books, or look it up in the yellow pages, you'll not find CAVI. CAVI is a concept who I believe time has come. Why? Because the players that come to CAVI come with their own desire to be part of the solution. This is not driven by government, but government is there. It is not driven by the private sector, but they're certainly there. It's not likewise the academic, but their presence is there. And this is what's given the energy to CAVI that we realize, as the Mayor said earlier, we must start doing business a different way. Next, please. So, a quick story background in CAVI, and I'll make it quick. We can talk about it offline if anyone wants to enlarge on it. It really started with an idea of a conversation. It went as far back as about 2002, 2003 or thereabouts. At that time I was in the Ministry of Community Services, Director of Engineering, and I was also on the BCWA board. With that and colleagues, we went around this island, knocked on doors, and said the question, what do you want Vancouver Island to look like in 50 years? As if the question never occurred, but people caught on so quickly. From that, what we decided to do was pull 40 or 50 people, randomly but not randomly chosen, people I would say who thought outside the box, pull them together, parks full, and had a facilitator and literally hammered out what their views of the concerns were on Vancouver Island. Now, Vancouver Island represents the nation, it represents BC, the province, it represents the global issues, it's all the same. The old questions came out of education, sustainability, new forms of governance, how do we make value judgments that take us in the right direction. So it's all about sharing ideas, knowledge, and most importantly, it's about creating partnerships. By giving the outline of my own background, there are two things that I would say, for me, have been consistent, whether it's the public, the private, NGO, or wherever. First, have a vision. Have a vision and hold tight to that vision. Because if we don't know where we're going, as I said in Alice in Wonderland, we're not surprised if we don't get there, we end up somewhere else. The second thing, partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. We cannot, will not get any further with resolution of our difficult issues that the Mayor outlined at the beginning without solid partnerships. Next, please. So what does CAVI do? CAVI brings together those who plan and regulate, some of you are here, those who build, the developers, and those who provide the legislative framework for the province. These are three key areas, but not the whole story. As I mentioned earlier, we've got close association with the academic sector as well as with the citizen groups through NGOs. Next, please. Central to the story of CAVI is water-centric. It's amazing that we as a society have got to the stage where we have, both locally, nationally, and globally, where we've managed to abuse the life force of everything that happens on this planet. The arrogance that we as Homo sapiens have demonstrated towards water is just something unbelievable. But the time is up, and we're now recognizing that, and that is good. So CAVI is saying, Vancouver Island, here we come to, the whole island, just looking at the whole island, water-centric, all our decisions should evolve and come from that issue of water centricity. And then with that, design with nature way of thinking, and acting to create livable communities in balance with ecology. Let me just make a